Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it all.
You've joined the Betamax Video Club, rewinding back to our favourite films of the 1980s. My name's Rich Nelson, and tonight I've rented Cocktail. Watching it with me is Elizabeth Howlett, who can be found on Twitter at BloggyBalboa. Hi Elizabeth, how are you?
Hello, I'm not too bad, thanks. Thank you for having me.
No, it's my pleasure, and thank you for bringing a film that I'd not seen for a very long time. It's Cocktail. Now, I know I gave you quite a long list of films to choose from. What's so special about this one for you?
Well, for me, it's one of those films that I love to hate, and I thought that would be a pretty good talking point for us.
It's a strange one because I'll sort of fess up early. I hadn't seen it in so long. I think I remember my cousin had it on video when it would have been, I don't know, 1990 or something like that, and she used to watch it on a regular basis. I wasn't really aware of how good or bad it was until I watched it again about two days ago. My God, it's special in a way.
Yeah, there's nothing else that quite compares to Cocktail.
I'll also admit, this film won the Razzie for Worst Picture in 1989, which just goes to show the high esteem it was held in. I mean, previous winners, I suppose, of that we've had Bolero, First Blood 2, Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
I mean, I don't remember Howard the Duck being that bad, but then I don't remember Cocktail too much. And this would have been, so Tom Cruise, 1988, so about 2 years after Top Gun, and I suppose he was flying on a crest of a wave, if you pardon the pun.
He was doing a flyby on the movies that day.
On our hearts and emotions. Now the film opens. It looks like he's leaving the army and getting on a bus to New York, which I suppose it's kind of following the American dream a little bit. He as he's pulling into towards Manhattan, he sees the World Trade Center and off to see his uncle. It turns out he's got family there. His uncle runs a bar. He has these dreams, and these go on throughout the film, where he's really obsessed by money. He wants to be rich.
He does. I mean, I thought that was. I must admit that I googled some trivia, but I came prepared today, and it said that in the novel of American Psycho, Patrick Bateman sees Tom Cruise in the lift, and he compliments him on his film Bartender, to which Tom Cruise goes, "Oh no, it was Cocktail." But I thought that was quite telling, because it frames it as though it's going to be some kind of Wall Street, 80s money grabbing, like an American Psycho type of thing, and then it just goes to, well, I don't know, it just turns into pandemonium basically, doesn't it?
It's strange that in this world where Tom Cruise, he has all these sort of textbooks and has goals of working in Wall Street and Madison Avenue and all these jobs that, I suppose are very aspirational. It doesn't take long for him to end up working in a TGI Fridays, which I suppose is a rite of passage for a lot of people, and fair play. I don't think I could do it. For 3/4 of the film, or really the whole thing, he seems to be driven by just this absolute desire to be rich, and this wouldn't get much more 80s, really.
No, and also having a lot of sex.
I suppose that's why a lot of people probably got into the bar industry.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does make people look like ridiculously cool, though, doesn't it? I mean, you can't say that you didn't come out of Cocktail and think, do you know what, I want to work in a bar, because I did.
I mean, my family, when they came over from Ireland, most of them ended up running pubs in sort of northwest London, which again is something of a rite of passage. But I never worked in one. But my whole idea of pubs at this time was old people pouring pints of brown liquid to old people moaning and swearing and cursing. Now I'm the age I am, that sounds ideal, but when I watched this for the first time, I'd never seen anything like it. It's throwing bottles around and cocktail shakers. It was amazing.
What I find bizarre about it as well is that he comes from a long line of kind of like Irish bartenders, and he thinks it's perfectly acceptable to waste about 8 minutes chucking a glass around just to serve one drink. You're like, dude, that's never going to fly. You do that in London today and people are going to start getting really shirty with you.
I think if I ever go to TGI Fridays again, I'll have to maybe take notes on what the bartenders are doing. They, I think I mean, I can't remember the last time I'd have gone, but I get the idea that it's just a case of get them done quickly and get them out.
Yeah, they basically just line them up on the bar and just, pour a load of vodka in about, 10 glasses all at once. Whereas this guy's just fannying about. He's chucking bottles round his hips. He's screaming.
It's him and Doug, Brian Brown's character. They have initially a very strange relationship. It's there is an element of the master and the teacher, but there is also a lot of sort of lingering eye contact and the sort that you'd actually expect from Top Gun. That they didn't quite play topless beach volleyball, but yeah, it was a lot of lingering looks, and when they're doing their routines in front of these packed bars, it was their relationship and their friendship got deep very quickly.
Yeah, it did, to the point where they ended up with the same woman.
Yes, Coughlin's law.
It's law. Never tell tales about a woman because you'll always hear about them, or something to that effect. I think it was.
Yeah. I think the first piece of wise advice he was wait till you've given them crabs.
Oh yeah, that was it. Waitresses don't hate you. Wait until you've given them crabs.
Yeah, it says a lot about his outlook on life.
I don't really know what Brian expected. I mean, he walked into this bar and he sees Doug there, and the first thing he does is ask him if he knows how to make a red eye, which basically just looks like vomit in a glass, and it's just kind of beer and tomato juice, I think, and then just a raw egg, which he proceeds to one, and he thinks, you know what, this guy could make a good business partner. It's like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, geez, this guy needs to sort himself out. He's in a real state here.
Yeah, he's. I'm not sure if he's picking the right role models. He's. No. It looked like a can of Tizer in a pint glass.
It looked really, really awful. And the thing is that I've often thought about making myself a red eye when I'm like, oh, and he put some aspirin in it as well. That's because when I've been hungover, I've thought, like, I wonder if a red eye is a real thing, or if that's just one of those lies that Cocktails told me. I've never tried it, but it'd be like a Woodnow and I drinking game, probably. Drink everything that he drinks in Cocktail. See how long you last.
It must be a good sort of hair of the dog sort of thing, because I think after one of their late nights he does have one, and it just looks this sort of bright red thing with an egg. And weirdly, I watched this with my wife, and she sat there, and I think that was the bit that she squirmed at the most, was the fact that they put an egg in the drink.
Yeah. No, it's madness.
And bear in mind, I think when she first she worked in a pub in central London, and she said she compared that Tom Cruise's first night in TGI Fridays, where he's getting the drinks wrong and getting shouted at, that's very reminiscent of working in Leicester Square. So did
she also have to rip her socks out after her shift was finished?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we haven't got to know each other that well yet. It's a bit of a...
Yeah, I don't understand that bit. Is that because his feet are sweating that much, or is it because he works in a bar and that's what happened to your socks?
It's probably maybe showing his incompetence that he spilt so much drink. It's all gone down his shoes.
Because I was like, why would your feet sweat that much? It's not like he's running. And that was the one bit that really, out of everything, the film that won a Razzie like worst screenplay, the thing that confused me was his socks.
Yes, it's very odd, and then he put them back on again. So
yeah, what a disgusting man.
Well, this is Tom Cruise. I mean, we've got a long catalogue of things to mention there. Now he's talked about wanting to run his own cocktail bar called, very imaginative, Cocktails and Dreams. Yeah, that's the sort of place you'd expect in a provincial city centre somewhere, run by an idiot like Tom Cruise. But in the meantime, someone gets amused by their antics, and apparently it's called flair bartending. Not regular TGI nonsense. But someone gets impressed and offers them a job working at the hippest bar in town, I think it's called Cell Block, which is basically a prison turned into a bar.
It is literally my idea of hell, that place.
With a yuppie poet.
With the yuppie poet who just looks like he doesn't fit in. Like, I don't know why they hired that guy. Their marketing people need to sort it out. But what I don't understand about this bar is that there's only one bar, but there's about 8 floors and everyone's got a drink.
And yet they don't look busy.
No, they don't. It's madness. And his kind of like what was it? Little poem that he did, just read off the cuff there. That was pretty good.
I am the world's world's last barman poet. Give us a kiss, you sexy beast! Go for it. I see America drinking the fabulous cocktails I make. America's getting stinking on something I stir or shake. The sex on the beach. The schnapps made from peach. The velvet hammer. The Alabama slammer. I make things with juice and froth. The pink squirrel. The three-toed sloth. I make drinks so sweet and snazzy. The iced tea. The kamikaze. The orgasm.
Oh, hands up the merchandise.
The death spasm. The Singapore sling, the ding-a-ling.
Ding-a-ling?
America, you're just devoted to every flavor I've got. But if you want to get loaded, why don't you just order a shot?
Yeah, if he's improvising that's good.
Yeah, he is. Somehow I think it was scripted.
But I suppose Tom Cruise would have to stand on a bar just for anyone to notice him.
Yes. He's wearing some shoes.
Well, weirdly enough, I'm jumping ahead slightly. There was a part later on in the film. I think it was when he'd been drunk at the art gallery.
Oh yeah.
And he was with his, again, spoiler, older girlfriend, and he had what looked like a very healthy Cuban heel on his shoe.
Ah.
Now, I can't remember exactly how tall Tom Cruise is. I suppose legend would have it he's about, 5'7", something like that.
Yeah.
By Hollywood standards, anyway, a short ass. I mean, I'm not one to talk, but he's got his heels on. But yeah, he has to stand on the bar to get this poem out, and it attracts the attention of a rather apparently well-to-do photographer.
Oh yeah, Coral.
Coral.
Brilliant. Yeah. He attracts our attention real good, and and I can't, yeah, that was it when she orders an orgasm and he asks her how many she wants and she says multiple, and you're like, oh, bound chicka, wow. Brian's getting it on.
And the thing is that's Gina Gershon, who was in another Razzie award-winning Showgirls. So yeah, it's almost like cast her in your film, you're fucked.
Yeah, because I read somewhere that they'd made a TV series as well called Cocktails and Dreams, and it had what's his face, Brian Brown, and it had her in it as well.
Oh really?
And it was sort of loosely based on Cocktail. Things that you find on IMDb are fascinating. I was looking it up, just like, really? They made a spin-off TV series?
Is this a recent thing, or?
No, I don't. I think it said something like it was made 10 years after Cocktail had come out.
Okay.
And it was mostly Australian.
Right.
So
okay.
I don't know. It might actually be very good for all I know. If it's got Brian Brown in it, I'm tempted to watch it, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna have to track that down. I think the only thing yeah, quick to Netflix. The only thing I noticed from IMDb, and I do normally have a look at the stuff, but the only thing I noticed was something that really grabbed me for some reason was in the trivia part, and they had one, and it had that Douglas Coughlin's nickname was Doug.
I saw that as well.
Yeah, and
right down the phone. And two people found it useful, and I was like, shit.
Yeah, these two people are idiots.
It was probably me and you. Probably like, oh,
yeah. Well, you got to show them some love. Coughlin's Law. There we go.
I can't actually remember any of Coughlin's Law.
No, it came across very much just like standard pub bore nonsense. But the one I did write down was the one about the crabs. So that says a lot about me, really.
Oh, I remembered one.
Oh,
Bury
God.
the dead, they'll stink up the place. That was one of his laws.
Okay.
I don't know, that was the morbid one that I remembered out of all the fun ones that he had.
He's very much an Aldi philosopher.
He is.
Yeah, I'm not slagging off Aldi. If they wish to sponsor me and give me some free nappies, that'd be great. Now, subtle.
All the red eyes you've been in. It's.
Oh God, they probably sell them, to be fair. Brian starts supposedly seeing Coral, she comes across, or the idea is that she seems quite rich. She's got this huge sort of apartment in New York and doesn't appear to be married or anything else. And they suggest that they open a bar in Jamaica. Tom Cruise sort of puts on a really bad accent, holding the poster. But while they're playing basketball, Doug's really sort of egging him on, really goading him into, reminding him of, again, like Coughlin's Law, like don't fall for her too quickly. But they did bet, was it $50, I think, that they wouldn't be seeing each other by the end of the week. Now, I mean, I make bets with people quite a lot, normally, very silly stuff, but to bet $50 and then try and get off with your mate's girlfriend to win a bet, he must have really needed that money.
Or Brian grossly misjudged the man who puts an egg in his beer. I think a man who puts an egg in his beer is untrustworthy.
Not to be messed with.
Not to be trifled with, not to place bets with.
But then she joins in almost, she turns up at the bar and kisses Doug in the cell block, and then sort of says something to him, and it's just so, like, it's almost like she was in on it from the start.
Yeah.
And then they have a fight that ends quite quickly, and Brian's storming out. Yeah.
He's off in a huff.
I'd have put my money on Doug in that fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I would have thought that Doug would have absolutely levered him, but he just kind of took it and just went, yeah, well, I'll still shout you girlfriend. See you later. Have fun in Jamaica.
1-0 to me.
I think he just did it just to prove his bullshit laws as well, because wasn't it one of his laws that it was like, oh, you girls will always sleep with someone else, or so it was like one of his bullshit theories. I think he just did it to prove a point, and she's just a super skank.
Well, she makes her choices. Now we cut to Jamaica. Now I don't think it's actually said it's Jamaica at the point, but it comes up later on. Brian is working in a bar in a resort, and he's sort of running the show almost. He's the head barman of what looks like an all-inclusive somewhere that you get in the back of a newspaper on teletext here. But I can't remember the time lapse between Cell Block and Jamaica.
No, I don't think. I think there's just a fade to black.
Yeah.
And then it comes back up. It's just like establishing shot Jamaica, and we don't know when or why.
Here's lots of pretty people sunbathing.
Yeah, that would detract from the gaping plot.
Well, we don't need a plot. We've got Jamaica. So Brian's working the bar, and of course the damsel in distress needs help because her friend's basically got absolutely paralytic. So this is Jordan, who's Elizabeth Shue, who's the a veteran of this podcast, having been in she was in Karate Kid.
Yeah, she was.
And looking brilliant. I mean, I've got some opinions about her character later on, but okay. She becomes quite smitten with Brian even the next day, because Doug has popped up with his stunning wife, who's very rich, which I suppose was his dream all along.
Yeah. And he kind of chivs Brian for it a lot, doesn't he? He says like, "Oh, this is what you wanted, and now I've got it."
It's strange because I mean he's obviously found out somewhere that this is where Brian's working and decided to go on their honeymoon just to that exact hotel. But he's still Doug. He's all very smooth with the patter and everything. But yeah, I mean Jordan is at the bar, so this is the day after, and she's gone to thank him for being so great. And even though, really as a first aider, he should have stayed at the bar, called the ambulance rather than galloping off and ordering someone else to do it. But
bartending there.
Well, that's it. He's just after the glory.
This is why he doesn't own his own bar yet. At this point in the movie, he doesn't have his own place because he's just not ready to take the responsibility. He
doesn't have the skills. How can he delegate these things if he's just going to run off at the first drop of a beautiful woman?
Oh, Tom, will you ever learn?
Probably not. I mean, bear in mind he's still jumping out of airplanes 30 years later.
Although, actually saying that, the tagline for this film is "When he pours, he rains," which I just think is ridiculous. I read it and I was like, oh, fuck off.
Just right, give me the Razzie.
When he pours, he rains. You know?
Yes.
Wow.
That's not even day one stuff. That is just the laziest thing.
I think there was two taglines, and I can't. The other one was just as funny. I think it was something like, "Oh, you know, women thought he was irresistible, but wait until they see him throw a bottle," or something like that. And I was just like, Jesus Christ! They had two taglines, and they're both awful. Both of them make me hate this film.
Again, that sounds awful. That sounds like something out of a Newcastle nightclug. You know, she loved him until he threw a bottle. At who?
Yeah, we've all been.
Begbie, yes.
Yeah. I would love that. Someone needs to do that. Someone needs to do it. If someone like has YouTube skills that's listening, you need to make a cocktail Begbie mashup, please. Do it for me.
That'd be
That'd
brilliant.
be amazing. Okay. All right, we'll just let that one lie. We'll leave it in the air.
Yeah, no. Someone will step up. They usually do. I've got some loyal, very clever listeners. I'm talking to you over there. Yeah. So Brian and Jordan start dating. This is where this film started reminding me of Dirty Dancing. They start dating. It's the very sort of cliched horse riding on the beach. And the way they start they go around some of the like poor villages of Jamaica, and it's very much like your white middle class idiots at Notting Hill Carnival, strutting around with a can of Red Stripe, thinking they're mingling and being urban dickheads.
Just agree, yeah. Grief tourists.
And he managed. I think they're sort of taking it quite slowly, and he talks some bollocks about the bits at the end of shoelaces, you know, and she's. Yes, I just find it strange that he just talks to her constantly about these people are millionaires. The person who invented the cocktail umbrella is a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. Now, I'm not saying he should be any different. I mean, it clearly works in the end. But would a young woman want to hear that constantly from 1980s Tom Cruise?
Well, no, and I mean, given what we know about her background later on and about her dad and how she left it all to go and be an artist and everything, you'd think that kind of trash talk would put Jordan off, that she'd be like, no, I don't want to be with somebody that's so focused on money. And I think later on in an argument, she's like, but you're so hung up on money. And it's like, well, yeah, that's all he's been talking about throughout the whole film. I think Doug even turned up and was like, oh, he's got a business, you know, he's got a business book behind the bar. He's got a book on how to make himself rich in 5 minutes or something.
And he was right.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah. So her character, I feel sorry for Elizabeth Shue because I think she tried really hard with a character that just had no sustenance. It had nothing to it, did it? No.
I mean, like you said, you know, she comes from money, although is trying a bit to get away from it. And yet she's just kind of lumped. And then it turns out, spoiler, they have sex in the lagoon, and of course she gets pregnant because it's the 80s, and you know,
lagoon sex as well.
No one's careful.
Yeah, in the 80s, wasn't that a bit of a risky game? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you be a bit careful if you've just met a bartender in Jamaica?
Yeah, who's desperate to make loads of money. It doesn't say why. Got to pay for his medical bills.
Pay for all the other illegitimate children he's got.
It's a strange one because again, this is, you know, suppose a holiday romance. It is like the Greek waiter bit from The Inbetweeners or something like that. Except he's not Greek; it's Tom Cruise. But but they seem very much in love, and she talks to him about. I think she jokes at one point about having kids. You know, kind of, you could see his face almost like that, just that little percentage of what? Oh, joke. But then back to the bar, and Doug and some other sort of middle-aged men who've got nothing better to do, they start egging Brian on to hit on an older woman because this is what ultimately his dream was to get a sugar mummy, is that a thing? Who'll fund his business. Now, one thing I did look online was the woman who was supposed to be the older woman at the time this was made was only about 30.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because she just she looks like time has marched on.
But she was about 30, and so was Brian Brown's wife. She was about the same age. He goes off with this older lady, and of course Jordan sees it because she's staying in the same hotel, so, you know, he's not exactly subtle.
Given that he's supposed to be some kind of like, drink slinging, pussy rolling, 80s bartender, like you'd think he'd have a bit more game, but he doesn't, does he? He's a fucking idiot.
Cover your bases, man.
Amateur, what can I say?
Well, I suppose he is the rookie, isn't he? He's the apprentice.
Yeah, Doug would do something like that.
Coglan's law.
Coglan's law. Shag who you like.
Because he wakes up the next morning, clearly regrets it. And that sounds horrible. He sort of turns around and goes, oh God, what have I done?
Just wake up and she's doing like aerobics or something really infuriating.
I think that was when...
Or was that later?
That was later, yeah. That was...
sorry. All right.
No,
Ignore
no.
me then.
I mean,
Where you were.
it says a lot, really. Because Jordan has gone home basically straight away. Because when he goes back to his Johnny from Dirty Dancing style sex hut, he is in there.
Like that.
It is. And then the older lady turns up, and then she says something that reminiscent of the being careful. And I wrote this down. What I got, there ain't no cure for.
Oh, wow.
Now, I hope that means...
Sounds a bit like HIV, doesn't it?
Yes, I hope
But
that...
I hope it's not.
She probably meant feelings for him, but she did look like she was standing slightly uncomfortably. So, yes.
Oh, put more egg in your beer, that'll cure it. You'll be fine. Coglan's law.
Coglan's law, have a red eye.
Have a red. She has got a red eye.
Fucking so's Tom Cruise, probably.
You cut that bit out. I'm so sorry.
Straight from the pages of his.
Oh dear. Anyway.
Moving on. Now, at this point, we're back in New York. The Jamaica filming has finished. They've run out of time. Doug has opened a new bar called Hysteria.
Oh, it's called.
Yes. That's
a bit of foreshadowing there, isn't it? I didn't realise it was called Hysteria.
Yeah, it sounds like a Peter Andre single. And
Peter Andrews.
And Brian has moved back to New York in with Bonnie, this other lady. And this is where he becomes very much a kept child, her toy boy. He wakes up with, she's doing aerobic something, isn't she? And she says to him, oh, go get the carrot juice.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not subtle. He's sort of saying, oh, have you spoken to your company about getting me a job and this, that and the other? And she's trying to dress him up in a nice suit for the evening, like he's her Ken doll.
Yeah, it is a bit weird, isn't it?
What a sad existence.
What I also don't understand is why she's not trying to get him a job. Does she think... I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't understand in this film, but he's going to figure it out eventually, surely. Just get him a job.
This isn't a long-term thing.
No. I think she really wants it to be, though.
Well, yeah, because the next part, I mean, he's already seen proper stalking type. He's already gone to see Jordan in the window of the deli where she said she worked. But then that evening when he wears the suit that she told him to wear, they've gone off to what looks like an art party, because that's what 80s New York people do. Turns up pissed, gets really drunk when he's there and punches the artist, which is a pretty special way of ending the night.
I don't think the artist guy really did anything wrong either, did he? He just got really angry and punched him.
I think he made a comment about him being a little bit drunk, which tipped little Tom Thumb over the edge.
Made him angry. He's angry Tom now.
Yeah, because this is when I noticed about the heels. Because when he's outside nursing his bloody nose and the lady goes out to sort of speak to him, I mean, she's already a lot taller than him, and he's got these massive heels on. They look like orthopaedic shoes.
I stand corrected, said the man in the orthopaedic shoes. Cracking.
Oh dear. No, I've not noticed that, but I will definitely have to go back and have a look, just purely to laugh at his orthopaedic shoes. Not that I love orthopaedic shoes. They're not...
in a lot of films, there's probably a lot of trick photography. You know, he's standing on boxes and stuff, but in a scene like that, it's quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for Lord of the Rings, didn't it?
Yeah.
They probably did something very similar.
And this is, well, that's the thing. And the director, and I did look this up, he also directed Dante's Peak, classic, and Species.
No, this guy's Roger Donaldson, is it?
Yeah.
He's amazing.
What a CV.
What a films. Yeah, I know. I'm surprised that who's the guy from Dante's Peak? His name is
Pierce
just like
Brosnan.
gone out my head. Pierce Brosnan. Why wasn't Pierce Brosnan in Cocktail? Out of all the people that they considered for the different roles, can you imagine if Pierce Brosnan was Doug Coughlin?
Bloody hell. Or, I mean, that would have been brilliant. Or
No,
even.
it's Brian, actually. That would have been fucking aces. Can you imagine?
Well, this would have been, so 88, Pierce Brosnan would have been at the peak of Remington Steele. And he just missed out on being James Bond the first time. So you can imagine, he's brooding, he's got that sort of smouldering look, and stick him in a film like this. Oh, that'd be awesome.
I imagine that he probably turned it down to do Taffin. The absolute mo.
Ma!
Maybe you shouldn't be drinking here.
Oh, I'm going to have to watch that again now.
What goes on in this town is none of your business.
As long as I'm living here, it is.
Then maybe you shouldn't be living here!
See, that could be a good companion piece, Cocktail and Taffin.
I heard you, Mo.
Be the name
Cocktail
of
and Taffin. See, now, I've never watched Taffin. I've watched kind of like the Adam and Joel, maybe you shouldn't be living here thing, and that was about it. And I was quite intrigued that it was the same woman from Indiana Jones, and I was like, well, there we go. I'm not going to watch this film. Is it worth a watch? Should I watch Taffin? Okay.
It's laughably bad. It is available on iTunes. It's probably on YouTube as well. Yeah, I mean, Cocktail and Taffin would be a good name for a bar, actually. But I think, dream casting, that is. Oh, Pierce Brosnan in this.
I would actually like to see Pierce Brosnan and Brian Brown do something together.
Now, I mean, Pierce Brosnan now seems to he'll do anything for money. So, I mean, that probably isn't a million miles away. This sounds awful. Brian Brown's still alive, isn't he?
I don't know. I imagine that he is.
All right, quick Google.
Brian Brown, if you're alive, please tweet us and let us know. Yeah, I know.
Next time I'm in Australia, I'll find out. No, still alive.
Good.
Jesus, he was in Peter Rabbit
No.
as Peter Rabbit's father.
So was he Australian or was he?
Yeah, he was Australian. It wasn't Peter Rabbit James Corden in that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, did you think that he fully went Australian for that one and was just like?
Paul Hogan wasn't available. Christ. I suppose this would be the era when Australian is suddenly the big thing.
Yeah.
And after Crocodile Dundee, if you're Australian, get them straight in.
Well, because oddly enough, you keep talking about Dirty Dancing. I thought this was funny because obviously Dirty Dancing was the one that kind of made Patrick Swayze, put him on the map, if you like. And then the next one that he did was Roadhouse, which was also a really bad movie about being in a bar.
Ooh.
And the tagline for that was "The dancing's over, let's get dirty." And I thought that Cocktail and Roadhouse were just like two and the same. I thought they're brilliant to watch back to back.
No, but Roadhouse is a different league to this. Roadhouse is brilliant.
Roadhouse is absolutely brilliant, but in different ways.
Roadhouse has Patrick Swayze punching people and ripping their throats out. This has Tom Cruise wearing slightly bigger heels. That's how bad he is.
Yeah, but if he decided to kick you with one of those heels, he'd probably fucking kill you. You would end up in hospital.
If he could stand on a box to reach me, that's it.
Yeah, he would just get up on the bar and then he would jackknife and your jaw would be gone and you would just be like, oh, you wouldn't be able to drink the cocktail that he'd poorly made you.
Victim of Scientology. Yes.
Hey God.
So after he's been dumped by his older sugar mummy, he goes back to the deli and properly stalks Jordan. She pours food over him, and rightly so. She invites him back, or he follows her back, or whatever. I mean, he's really persistent. And bear in mind, he cheated on her in front of her while she's on holiday, and has the audacity to go back and sort of his... I mean, I suppose, again, showing my age, I'm not down with what the kids are saying, but he's basically saying that everything's her fault, and apparently this is called gaslighting.
Yeah, I guess that he is gaslighting her, isn't he?
Because she came on too strong. She basically scared him off straight into this other woman's arms.
Yeah.
God, everything's her fault. He's a fucking stalker, he is.
He is. He's a wrong un, really.
This is domestic abuse.
It is. And it should be reported. And I'm sure that he has been reported for domestic abuse.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive subject, really. I could get done for slander by Tom Cruise. Not a good thing.
That's fine. Yeah, don't worry about it, don't worry. And then the ultimate insult, I suppose, is that when Jordan tells him she's pregnant, it is the old, is it mine?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
implied, you slut?
Who else did you shag in that waterfall? Because it wasn't just me.
They sort of separate. They go their separate ways. She says she doesn't want anything to do with him. He goes to find her at her parents' house. Now this is when we find out exactly how posh as fuck they are.
Oh.
They have doorman. They have what looks like a butler, and Dad tries to buy him off.
And says that he doesn't want a bartender coming into the family.
God, that's nice, isn't it?
I mean, because at this point, I think the film kind of covers up whatever Brian has done beforehand. Because I think throughout the whole film, you know that Brian's an asshole, right? I don't think they're trying to hide that. But then there are moments where he does really cool stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to be just like Brian Flanagan. And then when you put him up against Jordan's dad, who I'm sure is like a famous actor, no?
I suppose this would be like the equivalent of Baby's dad from Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, who was in like a couple of movies, and then that was it. But he, when he, offers to buy him out and everything, you're then really rooting for Brian, and you're really rooting for Jordan. And you're like, yeah, your dysfunctional relationship conquers over this awful capitalist arsehole father, and it just completely flips the whole film on its head.
He must have had a lot of money. Now, I don't know how many times he's tried to pay off boyfriends or anything like that, but I mean, 10 grand. That's a decent wedge for Brian. For the dad,
Yeah.
it's probably just change he has down the back of the sofa. Chucking a check for 10 grand at him to piss off. In the 80s, that's probably what a lot of blokes would dream of.
Getting paid off.
Yeah, paid off. So you've knocked my daughter up. Now, here's 10 grand. Fuck off and don't speak to her again.
Well, that's what I aim for, but I can't do it. So I'll work a 9 to 5. Bloody hell.
If only had 10 grand.
But no, yeah, I mean, I think he that's supposed to be, the point at which we all realise that Brian's grown up and that he's prepared to not run away from the bar or his pregnant girlfriend.
Yeah, because he's changed. I think is the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, in the space of about 2 weeks.
Right, I've done some research. The dad,
Okay.
Jordan's dad, was also in a Star Trek film, which also won Worst Picture at the Razzies.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a Razzie theme.
He was really good, but it wouldn't have been from that.
No, he played according to this, a renegade Vulcan who was searching for God.
A renegade Vulcan, not even just your normal Vulcan.
No, he had the ears. That's probably why you don't recognise him.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I feel like he's in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or something.
Ooh, maybe, yeah. That'd be good.
I feel like I recognise that guy's face, but it's definitely not. I'll do my own research and come back to you.
Yeah. I'm going to find out how tall Tom Cruise is compared to Carlton from The Fresh Prince. That'd be good.
Ooh.
So after this, so Brian's left. He's refused the 10 grand. They've gone to Doug's bar and they've paid back because they had a bet saying Doug said that you'll come and work for me by St Patrick's Day, I think it was. And they bet a $500 bottle of brandy. So he turns up with this bottle of brandy, and Doug has basically said that he's lost all his money trading on commodities, which I've only recently learned because I watch Trading Places. And despite being with this really rich, beautiful wife, she doesn't know any of it about the fact that he's lost the money. Gets really pissed on this brandy. Brian drink drives the wife home. She makes a move on him, and I suppose this is where we see his moral fibre in that he spurns her advances.
Yeah, but he doesn't know he still kisses her.
Yeah.
Jeremy Kyle had that sexual contact.
Really?
Yeah, so that's anything from kiss to intercourse is sexual contact, and
Okay.
Jeremy Kyle's law, which is a lot more upstanding than Coughlin's, I feel.
Yeah, I'd rather listen to Brian Brown than Jeremy Kyle.
It's got a nicer accent.
But yeah, so I mean, she kisses him, he kisses her back a bit, and then suddenly has a crisis of conscience. Goes back to the boat, and Doug has killed himself with the bottle of brandy.
Which is mad. Like, no one saw that coming.
No, and this is one of the things from watching this film the other night that I completely must have erased it from my brain, because I thought this was literally a film.
Too traumatized. It's okay.
Yeah, I was young, but I thought this was a film about two rival barmen who had rival bars or worked in the same bars, and that was about it. I didn't remember anything about, suicide and pregnancy and all this stuff. It's taken a turn.
It's like they tried to just cram. It's a bit like a Christmas special of EastEnders. They've just tried to cram like every storyline that they can possibly think of into one film, and they did it really badly. Like, it doesn't even like really make any sense, does it? Like, how do you even go about slitting your own throat? I don't even know. Could he, is this going to be like a Kurt Cobain thing where when they check his alcohol levels, he wasn't able to do it? It was actually his wife.
Yeah, but then she's got an alibi because she was trying to get it off with Tom Cruise.
I suppose that's an alibi shoot. See, look, this would make a really good sequel. If she to admit that.
Cocktail 2, or Cocktail and Tapping.
Cocktail and Tapping, yeah. Tapping would get to the bottom of this.
He would.
Then maybe you shouldn't be living here!
So he's traumatised. He's got his suicide note, which, and I've just written, I don't remember this at all.
Coughlin's law. Bury the dead. They stink up the joint. As for the rest of Coughlin's laws, ignore them. The guy was always full of shit. But I guess you knew that already.
And basically, so he's got a suicide note. He's gone to Jordan's dad's gaff, and this is where it becomes really sort of desperate times, because he sort of sneaks in past the doorman, pushes his way past the butler, demanding where she is. Then it turns into a bit of a fist fight, and then she kind of just goes off with him.
Yeah, he punches the door, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's so violent.
He is a very violent man. Like, I can understand why her dad tried to pay him off.
Yeah.
But the doorman did push her, and he was like, "She's pregnant, you son of a bitch." Or something like that's my Tom Cruise impression, by the way. I hope you like it.
He's a nasty, poison little dwarf.
He's oh, he's an angry gnome.
They're leaving because she wants to be with the father of her unborn child or two. As they get in the lift, the dad says, "You're on your own," and I assume he was talking to the daughter, but of course Brian had to wade in with, "That's just how I like it."
Yeah. So, well, he's not your dad.
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on, not everything's about you. Just because your face is on the poster of this film, prick.
Well, yeah, he is, isn't he? But this is it. But then I kind of want to be Brian Flanagan.
Okay.
I don't want to be exactly like Brian Flanagan, but I want to be the guy that stood behind the bar, throwing things and catching them, and everyone goes woo, and then I can hold up a tip bucket, and people will throw their money into it, and when I pour, I will rain. And that's what I want out of life, basically, minus pregnancy, suicidal friends, food on my hair.
To be honest, that would be the bit that probably freaked me out the most, was having that whatever weird vomity looking food was.
Fuck that, it looked like chicken tonight, didn't it? It looks horrible. I do like it that you can get a freeze frame of that shot though, and Tom Cruise has got about 15 different chins because of he's just trying to recoil his face back into his neck. It looks like he's like ah!
And then he tries to laugh it off. I wouldn't order the specials.
Yeah, it's like, well, I wouldn't get the waitresses pregnant and then fucking cheat on them when in Jamaica.
I'll have what she's having. No, wait, wrong film. So we cut from there to the uncle's bar. Jordan and Brian are married. They open Cocktails and Dreams at Flanagan's bar because it's no good just having cocktails and dreams knowing it's his. He's got to also call it his bar just because he's a ponce. And decides that he wants to carry on the poetry from earlier on.
Well, this poem is entitled Flanagan's Advice to His Unborn Child. Now, if Jordan gives birth to a fine Irish son, there'll be cocktails and dreams for him one day to run. A business that shall yield a financial windfall.
It better.
To be franchised in every suburban shopping mall.
A dynasty. You're founding a dynasty.
Now, if a daughter arrives to bless our clan, I guess the shit will certainly hit the fan. But this I shall promise to thee. I'll never let her marry a guy like me. Still, if our child's the naughtiest of girls or the wildest of young men, I swear I'll be the best dad I can. And never, ever get spooked again.
Everyone's turned up at this bar. He reads off this poem, basically implying that if he has a son, it's great because he can run the bar. If it's a girl, oh God, no. I'll warn her off people like me. Why can't the girl run the bar?
Because the 80s was a sexist time and girls are shit at everything. Coglin's Law. Because he's kind of like, he basically just says like, oh, if I have a son, he's going to be Irish and he's going to inherit the bar. And if I have a girl, I've got to warn her against men like me in case she gets knocked up and beats up my doorman and then walks out of my life forever. He's basically saying, I hope that she doesn't turn out like her mum. This is basically what he's saying, isn't it?
I hope my son is like me and my daughter is not like my wife. It's a good start to any marriage.
I think so, yeah.
And then she sort of confides in him that actually they're having twins. I suppose around now, those twins would be around 30. They'd be, we don't know, was one a boy and one a girl? But this is when they should have a reboot. Of course, now kids being kids, they probably don't drink. Probably have like energy drinks but they go to the sort of bars where they have poets. East London.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I'd want my bartender to be fucking around saying poems. I just want him to be tending bar.
Do it on your own time, Shakespeare. That off.
Yeah, yeah. Keep your fancy words to yourself.
Yeah, and get off the bar and get me a drink.
Where did he get the money for his bar?
Oof.
It's not even 9 months. So how is he? The whole film, he's like, I need to get enough money to have a bar. I need to have a bar. I've got to have my own business. I've got to have a bar. He's just had a marriage. Now he's got kids. Where's he got the bloody money from?
I think he did say at one point he had some savings and a loan from his uncle, who from earlier in the film came across about as tight as a duck's arse when he was talking about like stealing his customers' cigarette money for tips.
Well, I mean, maybe this is the magic of Jordan. Maybe he liked Jordan so much that he decided to bestow them money. I don't know.
She must have had a trust fund somewhere or sold one of her paintings.
To her dad. For 10 grand.
Here's a painting of the lagoon where my children were conceived. Yeah, put that on your wall.
Oh, dear.
So that was Cocktail.
Yes, it was. I think we've got more questions than answers, really.
Yeah.
From this film.
The only question is, did you enjoy it?
I do. Honestly, I do. I enjoy Cocktail more than I enjoy Top Gun.
Okay, that's bold claim.
It is, but I'm going to stick to it. I really enjoy Cocktail. I quite like it. I mean, I like it up to the point kind of where Doug kills himself, because I think Doug is the best one.
Yeah.
And when Doug gets out of it, it does literally, he just takes the life with him a little bit and the film just falls a bit flat. But all of that up until the point where Doug kills himself, great movie. Watch it all day.
Yeah. And then just turn it off then and it's not a happy ending at all.
Then, well, because the ending doesn't really make any fucking sense anyway. So if I just turned it off, like when quit while we're ahead, Tom Cruise is in Jamaica, everything's going great. Turn it off then.
Works for me.
Let your imagination run wild at that point. Then put Taffet on.
I feel like this is a film that I will have to revisit at some point. I think it was I had left it so long that I completely forgot what the film was about. So I suppose it says about as much as me as it does about anything else. But I always had this film that this idea that this film was just this innocent caper between these two guys, and I had no idea about how dark it went. But then I suppose you can look back at a lot of 80s films now, and when they did the Dirty Dancing episode, and you suddenly realise that some of the themes of Dirty Dancing were about abortion and feminism and that sort of time when really a lot of people just see Dirty Dancing as a chick flick.
It's kind of like a lot of music in the 80s though as well. I think people overlook it a lot. I think, it's just synthy, carefree, and it's not. Like, you listen to some of Duran Duran's lyrics and it's like, shit, dude, it's getting real. Who knew what Reflex was really about? Not me.
Not a dodgy 80s sort of revival nightclub. Do they still have Reflex bars?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, yeah.
There's one in Peterborough.
Okay, right. I think the last one I went to was in Croydon, and it was fucking horrendous.
Did they have the shiny dance floor and people of every age?
Yeah, and I believe the dance floor rotated as well.
Oh, that's not right. Not when you've been drinking.
No, it was like a really low budget drunk version of Cirque du Soleil. Fucking hell.
It sounds like Vice City. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, it was Croydon.
Okay, yeah, no. Well, someone probably did have a gun in that case, so you're lucky to get out alive.
Yes, well, I've made it this far. Anyway, Elizabeth, thank you very much for bringing this battered rental version of Cocktail. Now, your blog, and I will say it again, Bloggy Balboa, one of the best Twitter handles. Now, what can people expect from your blog and your Twitter?
Well, I tend to look at fantasy films, mostly from the 80s and the 90s, and rip them to pieces, basically. That's my thing. I like to psychoanalyze, and I like to do horror theories, so check it out.
Brilliant. And I will say, now, we're recording this in December, and one tweet I did like from quite recently was that your, I suppose, pitch was that The Princess Bride is a Christmas movie.
Oh, it so is. It blew my mind.
I'm still trying to argue with people that Rocky IV is a Christmas film, but Princess Bride is proper out there. But there is logic. There is logic there.
There is logic. You should definitely check it out. I won't spoil it.
Yeah, it's on your Twitter.
Yeah, go and check it out.
As per usual, I'll play out the podcast with the song that was number one in the UK at the time this came out. So this came out on the 20th of January 1989, and number one of my all-time favourites-ish, Especially For You by Kylie and Jason.
Oh,
Bet they're playing that in Reflex tonight.
I bet they are as well. They're rotating with that floor.
Oh yes. Elizabeth, thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks.
You were in my heart, my love never changed. I still feel the same.
Especially for you, I want to tell you I was feeling that way too. And if dreams were wings, I would have flown to you to be where you are.
No matter how far, and now that I'm next to you,
No more dreaming about tomorrow. Forget the loneliness and the sorrow.
I'm gonna say it's all because of you. And now we're back together. I wanna show you my heart is so true. And all the love I have is especially for you. Especially for you.
This podcast is brought to you by executive producer Gary West, associate producer Chris Oakley. You can contribute to the running of the page by clicking on patreon.com/Betamax Video Club.